The night is dark and full of theories.
What if Ron Weasley actually had the sight? Not as a joke. Not as something to laugh about in divination class while making up ridiculous predictions to satisfy Professor Trelawney's theatrical demands. What if, in that moment during third year when he looked into the crystal ball and invented a prophecy about Harry suffering but being happy about it, the inner eye had actually opened? What if genuine sight had manifested in the last person anyone would expect to possess it? The boy who treated divination as an opportunity for creative fiction and extended lunch breaks. It seems absurd on the surface. Ron Weasley, a seer? The same Ron who couldn't take anything mystical seriously, who mocked Hermione for dismissing divination, who made up homework predictions about getting unexpected gold and losing a treasured possession. How could someone so determinedly practical, so rooted in the concrete world of chess strategies and Quidditch plays, possess the gift of prophecy? But that's exactly what makes this scenario fascinating. Because the sight doesn't choose people based on whether they want it or believe in it. It manifests in those with the raw psychic sensitivity, regardless of their attitude toward mysticism. And Ron, emotional, intuitive, deeply connected to his friends and family, actually possessed the fundamental qualities necessary for sight. He just never developed them because he never had reason to take divination seriously, until the moment when pretend prophecy became real prophecy, and everything changed. Today we're exploring what happens when Ron Weasley discovers genuine prophetic ability in the middle of third year. We're examining how this gift transforms his role in the trio, his relationship with Harry and Hermione, his position in the wizarding world, and ultimately his fate in the war against Voldemort. We're diving deep into what it means to see the future, the burden of prophetic knowledge, and the question of whether destiny can be changed or merely observed. This isn't a simple story of Ron suddenly becoming powerful and important. The sight is a complicated, often terrible gift. True seers don't control their visions. They're subjected to them. They see fragments of possible futures, not clear roadmaps. They know terrible things are coming, but often can't prevent them. They're burdened with knowledge that isolates them from others who can't understand what it's like to live partially in the future, while your body remains in the present. Trelawney herself is proof that the sight doesn't make life easier. She's dismissed as a fraud by most of the school despite making 2 genuine prophecies that shaped the entire wizarding world. She's theatrical and dramatic partially because real sight is so rare that she has to fill the gaps with performance to maintain her position. And when genuine prophecy does strike, it overwhelms her completely. She doesn't even remember the experience afterward. Now imagine Ron developing that same gift. Ron, who's already insecure about being overshadowed by Harry's fame and Hermione's brilliance. Ron, who desperately wants to prove his worth to his family and friends. Ron, who values loyalty and presence and being there for the people he loves. How does he handle suddenly seeing futures he can't prevent? How does he cope with knowing what's coming for Harry, for Hermione, for his family? How does he balance warning people about danger with the knowledge that some prophecies are self-fulfilling? We'll walk through third year's discovery and initial training, fourth year's tournament and the terrible visions of Voldemort's return, fifth year's Department of Mysteries and the prophecy about Harry, sixth year's increasing darkness and visions of death, and seventh year's Horcrux hunt, where Ron's sight becomes both invaluable tool and crushing burden. We'll explore how Hermione reacts to Ron developing mystical abilities she'd dismissed as nonsense, how Harry feels about Ron seeing his future, potentially including his death, how the Weasley family handles having a seer in the family for the first time in generations, how Dumbledore uses or protects Ron's gift, how Voldemort reacts when he learns the boy who lived has a seer at his side, and we'll examine the central tension. Can you change what you see, or does the act of seeing it make it inevitable? If Ron has a vision of someone dying, does warning them save their life or set in motion the events that lead to that death? Is the future fixed or fluid, and what's the psychological cost of living with those questions every day? Fair warning, this exploration gets dark. The sight isn't a pleasant gift. Ron will see terrible things. He'll fail to prevent tragedies he foresaw. He'll struggle with guilt and isolation. His friendships will strain under the weight of prophetic knowledge. He'll face the question every seer faces. Is it better to see and be helpless, or to be blind and surprised? But we'll also explore how the sight makes Ron uniquely valuable, how his visions help the Order plan and strategize, how prophetic insight saves lives that would have been lost, How knowing even fragments of the future gives hope that victory is possible even when circumstances seem hopeless. And how Ron's essential goodness, his loyalty, his humor, his humanity, prevents the sight from consuming him the way it has consumed so many seers before. So let's dive into the timeline where Ron Weasley becomes a true seer, where the joke prophecy about Harry suffering but being happy becomes the first of many genuine visions, where the boy who never took divination seriously becomes one of the most powerful prophetic voices of his generation, and where the question of destiny versus choice becomes personal in the most profound way possible. Because sometimes the people least likely to want a gift are exactly the ones who need to have it, and sometimes prophecy chooses its vessels not based on who's ready for it, but based on who has the strength to carry it without breaking. The first vision, third year divination. The divergence point arrives on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon in autumn 1993. Harry, Ron, and Hermione climb the silver ladder to Professor Trelawney's stuffy, overly perfumed classroom for yet another divination lesson. The room is as theatrical as always. Curtains drawn, lamps covered with scarves, incense burning creating the mysterious atmosphere Trelawney believes proper for developing the inner eye. They've been studying crystal ball gazing for several weeks now. Most students see nothing but reflected light and their own bored faces. Hermione has already declared the entire subject woolly and imprecise, earning herself Trelawney's disdain. Harry occasionally thinks he sees shapes but assumes it's just his imagination or his glasses creating refractions. And Ron, as usual, makes up increasingly ridiculous predictions to see if Trelawney will accept them. This particular lesson follows the established pattern. Trelawney sweeps between the tables in her usual dramatic fashion, examining students' crystal balls and making vague pronouncements about what she claims to see within them. She tells Lavender that good news is coming. She warns Seamus about impending misfortune. She studies Neville's ball for a long time before declaring sadly that he's blocking his inner eye through anxiety. Then she arrives at Harry and Ron's table. She peers into Harry's crystal ball, gasps theatrically, and begins making dire predictions about danger and darkness. Harry tries not to roll his eyes. After 2 years of Trelawney predicting his death in increasingly creative ways, he's learned to tune out most of her dramatics. And you, Mr. Weasley? Trelawney turns to Ron's crystal ball. What do you see? In canon, Ron invents a prophecy on the spot. Looking at the vague shapes in the crystal, he makes up something about Harry getting a new pet and Hermione being elected head girl, designed purely to fill the silence and maybe get a decent mark. Trelawney rejects it as forced and lacking genuine sight. But in this timeline, something different happens. Ron looks into the crystal ball, preparing to invent another ridiculous prediction. He's thinking about making up something about Hermione's cat eating Scabbers, just to see Hermione's reaction. His mind is wandering, not focused on the task at all. And then, the inner eye opens. The crystal ball's depths suddenly fill with swirling gray mist. The mist parts to reveal images, vivid and terrible. Ron sees Harry lying on the ground surrounded by graves. A skeletal figure rising from a cauldron. Peter Pettigrew, alive, not dead, cutting Harry's arm. Voldemort restored to body, red eyes gleaming. A graveyard at night. Death, pain, terror. The vision hits Ron like a physical blow. His consciousness splits. Part of him remains in the divination classroom, aware of Trelawney waiting for his answer. But another part is in the vision, experiencing it as if he's there, seeing through Harry's eyes or perhaps hovering above the scene like a ghost. The emotions flood through him. Harry's fear, his pain, his desperate realization that he's about to die. And then, just as suddenly, the vision ends. Ron is back in his body, staring at the now clear crystal ball, his heart racing and his hands shaking. Well? Trelawney prompts impatiently. What do you see? Ron opens his mouth. He should say nothing, should make up something harmless, should not repeat what he just saw because it was too terrible, too real, too wrong to be just imagination. But the sight has its own imperative. True prophecy demands to be spoken. The words come out of Ron's mouth in a voice that doesn't quite sound like his own, deeper, more resonant, touched with something ancient and other. I see Harry in a graveyard, surrounded by tombstones and death. I see a cauldron and a ritual. I see the Dark Lord return to flesh. I see blood and bone and servant's hand. I see Harry bleeding and the dark mark burning in the sky. I see, his voice cuts off abruptly. The trance breaks. Ron slumps in his chair, suddenly exhausted, as if he's run a marathon. The classroom is completely silent. Trelawney stares at him with an expression nobody has ever seen on her face before. Not her usual theatrical excitement at a student's prediction. Not her dismissive superiority when evaluating invented prophecies. This is genuine shock, possibly even fear. "Describe what you saw," she says quietly, all performance dropped from her voice. "Every detail." "Now," Ron does, haltingly at first, then with increasing clarity as the vision's memory solidifies in his mind. He describes the graveyard, the cauldron, the ritual, Voldemort's rebirth. He describes Peter Pettigrew, which causes Harry to go rigid with shock, performing the ceremony. He describes sensations and emotions that shouldn't be accessible to someone just making up a story. When he finishes, Trelawney is pale. Her enormous glasses magnify eyes that have lost all their usual vagueness. She's looking at Ron like he's transformed into something dangerous and precious simultaneously. "This is true sight," she whispers. "Genuine prophetic vision. Not imagination, not symbolic interpretation. You saw the future, Mr. Weasley. The actual future." "But that's impossible," Hermione protests. "Divination isn't a real—" "This is not divination, Miss Granger," Trelawney interrupts sharply. "This is the sight, true seeing. Perhaps 1 in a million wizards possesses it. And Mr. Weasley has just demonstrated genuine prophetic ability." Ron feels like he might be sick. The vision's emotions are still echoing through him. Harry's terror, the graveyard's cold, the sense of ancient evil rising. It can't be real. "I made it up. I was just looking in the ball and—" "You cannot make up the sight," Trelawney says firmly. "It either manifests or it doesn't. And it has manifested in you." She studies him with new intensity. "Have you had visions before? Dreams that came true? Moments of knowing things before they happened?" Ron thinks back. Has he? There had been times when he knew things without knowing how he knew them. When he sensed danger before it arrived. When he had dreams that seemed more real than normal dreams. But he'd always dismissed them as coincidence or imagination, or just being around Harry, whose life was weird enough to make anyone paranoid. "Maybe," he says uncertainly. "I don't know. Nothing like this. The sight often awakens suddenly," Trelawney explains, speaking more seriously than Ron has ever heard her. "A traumatic event, a moment of emotional intensity, or sometimes random chance triggers the inner eyes opening. Once opened, it rarely closes again." She pauses. "This changes everything, Mr. Weasley. You will need training. Proper training, not the general instruction I provide to the class. The sight is powerful but dangerous if uncontrolled." "What about what I saw?" Ron asks desperately. "Harry in the graveyard? Voldemort coming back? Was that real? Is that going to happen?" "I don't know," Trelawney admits. "Visions show possible futures, not certainties. The timeline is fluid. Events can change." "But," she hesitates, "visions of this clarity, this intensity, usually indicate high probability futures. Especially for a new seer whose gift is raw and unfiltered." Harry, who's been silent throughout this exchange, finally speaks. "Peter Pettigrew is dead. Sirius Black killed him 12 years ago. There were witnesses. I know what I saw," Ron says. "It was him. Alive. Serving Voldemort." The implications crash down on all of them simultaneously. If Pettigrew is alive, then the story everyone believes about Sirius Black might be wrong. If Voldemort is planning a ritual to return to body, then the boy who lived is in terrible danger. If Ron actually has the sight, then everything they thought they knew about divination being nonsense is wrong. Hermione looks like her entire worldview is crumbling. Harry looks terrified. Ron feels overwhelmed by the responsibility of knowledge he never wanted. And Trelawney looks at Ron Weasley with an expression mixing sympathy and resignation, because she knows what he's just become. She knows the burden he's just accepted, whether he wanted it or not. She knows that the sight is a gift that feels more like a curse, especially when you're 13 years old and have just seen your best friend's future death. The lesson ends shortly after, with Trelawney pulling Ron aside and arranging private training sessions starting immediately. As the other students file out, whispering excitedly about Ron's dramatic prophecy, Ron sits with Harry and Hermione in the now empty classroom, trying to process what just happened. "This is mental," Ron says finally. "I can't actually see the future." "That's impossible. You just described things you shouldn't know," Hermione counters, her logical mind already adapting to new information despite her discomfort. "Peter Pettigrew, a specific ritual. Details that can't be imagination. Maybe it's stress or bad pumpkin juice or maybe you actually have the sight, Harry says quietly. And we need to figure out what that vision means and how to prevent it. Ron looks at his best friend, remembering the terror in the vision Harry's eyes, the certainty of death approaching. I'm not letting what I saw happen to you. I don't care if it's prophecy or destiny or whatever. We'll change it. Can prophecy be changed? Hermione asks practically. None of them know the answer, but they're about to spend the next 4 years finding out. Because Ron Weasley has just become a seer, whether he's ready for it or not. And the future has just become a chess game where Ron can see several moves ahead, but the pieces are people he loves and the stakes are life and death. The training begins immediately. And with it, Ron's transformation from the trio's comic relief into something far more complicated and dangerous. Early training in second visions, autumn 1993. Professor Trelawney's attitude toward Ron changes completely after the graveyard vision. She goes from treating him as another student, making up predictions, to regarding him with a mixture of professional respect and personal wariness. She schedules private lessons 3 times a week in addition to regular classes, teaching Ron techniques that most students never learn because they don't have genuine sight to develop. The first lesson focuses on understanding what just happened. They sit in Trelawney's overcrowded office, surrounded by crystals and dream catchers and mystical paraphernalia that Ron now suspects might actually serve some purpose beyond decoration. The sight manifests differently in each seer, Trelawney explains, her usual theatrical manner subdued. Some see through dreams, others through crystal gazing or tea leaves or scrying. Some receive visions spontaneously without any catalyst at all. You appear to be primarily a crystal seer, though your gift may express itself through other methods as well. What about the way I felt? Ron asks. Like I was there, like I was Harry, experiencing what he was experiencing. Empathic sight, Trelawney says, nodding. Rare and particularly difficult. You don't just see events, you experience the emotions of those involved. It makes visions more accurate, but also more traumatic. You'll feel every death you foresee, every pain, every fear. Ron's stomach churns. That's horrible. Yes, the sight is often horrible. She says it matter-of-factly, without her usual dramatic flair. This is why I asked whether you've truly chosen to develop this gift. Once you begin training, your abilities will strengthen. You'll see more frequently, more clearly. You'll carry the burden of knowledge that others don't have. You'll know terrible things are coming and often be unable to prevent them. Many seers go mad from the strain. But I could also maybe save people, Ron argues. If I see danger coming, I can warn them. Like with Harry and the graveyard. Perhaps. But consider, what if your warning is what causes the event? What if Harry goes to the graveyard because you told him not to, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy? This is the central paradox of the sight. Does knowing the future allow you to change it, or does the knowledge itself guarantee it happens? Ron thinks about this. His mind, trained by years of chess strategy, starts analyzing the problem. It's like in chess. If I know my opponent's strategy, I can counter it. But if they know I know, they can adjust their strategy. So the knowledge itself changes the game. Precisely. Except in prophecy, you don't know how much your opponent knows. You don't know if the future you saw accounts for your foreknowledge. You're playing chess blindfolded against time itself. They practice basic techniques. Meditation to quiet the conscious mind and allow the sight to flow. Focusing exercises using the crystal ball. Methods for remembering visions clearly instead of losing details upon waking. Techniques for grounding himself after a vision so the emotions don't overwhelm him. Ron learns that genuine sight feels different from imagination. Imagined scenarios are fuzzy, easily dismissed, changeable. True visions have weight and texture and emotional resonance. They feel more real than real, as if you're remembering something that already happened, rather than seeing something that might happen. The second vision comes during his third private lesson, a week after the first. Trelawney has him gazing into the crystal ball, practicing the meditative state that opens the inner eye. Ron's mind is drifting, thinking about Quidditch and homework, and how weird it is to take divination seriously now. Then the mist appears again. The crystal's depths fill with swirling gray, and Ron is pulled into another vision. This time he sees Sirius Black, not the deranged murderer from the wanted posters, but a thin, desperate man with kind eyes and a familiar face. He's in the shrieking shack with Remus Lupin. Peter Pettigrew is there too, alive and terrified, in rat form. The scene plays out, Pettigrew's transformation, his confession, the revelation of his betrayal. Sirius was innocent all along, framed by the real traitor who'd been living as Ron's pet rat for 12 years. The vision also shows Scabbers, Pettigrew escaping, shows the Dementors attacking, shows Sirius captured and scheduled for the Dementor's kiss despite his innocence, shows the terrible injustice of an innocent man punished while the guilty one escapes again. Ron comes out of the vision gasping. Scabbers, Peter Pettigrew, he's been my rat this whole time, living in my pocket, sleeping in my dormitory. He's the traitor. Trelawney goes very still. Are you certain? I saw it. The same way I saw the graveyard. Sirius Black is innocent. Pettigrew framed him, and he's been hiding as my rat for 12 years. The implications are staggering. If Ron's vision is accurate, then Harry's godfather is innocent and has been in Azkaban for over a decade for a crime he didn't commit. The real traitor has been with the Weasley family since Percy got Scabbers 6 years ago. And Ron has been carrying a Death Eater around in his pocket. We have to tell someone, Ron says. Dumbledore, the Ministry, someone who can help. And tell them what? Trelawney asks pragmatically. That you had a vision? That you're a seer who knows Sirius Black is innocent because you saw the future? They'll dismiss it as a child's imagination. Possibly have you examined for mental instability. Divination has been mocked as imprecise for so long that even genuine prophecy is doubted unless it's delivered by a recognized seer with established credibility. But you're a recognized seer. You could confirm it. I could try. But I've made 2 true prophecies in my entire career, both of which I don't remember making. The rest of my work is educated guessing and symbolic interpretation. My credibility is questionable at best. And even if Dumbledore believed us, we have no proof. Your vision isn't evidence the Ministry will accept. Ron feels frustrated helplessness. He knows the truth, sees it with the sight, but can't make anyone believe him. So what do? We wait for events to unfold. Your vision showed you what will happen. Now you must watch for the moment when you can intervene effectively. Sometimes the sight shows you not what to prevent, but what to do when the moment arrives. It's not satisfying. Ron wants to act now, to prevent the injustice, to save Sirius immediately. But Trelawney is right. Without proof, without credibility, his word means nothing. He tells Harry and Hermione about the vision that evening. Harry's reaction is complicated. Desperate hope that his godfather might be innocent, mixed with fear of believing it and being wrong. Hermione immediately starts researching animagi and how to force a transformation. We need to catch Pettigrew in human form, she reasons. If we can prove Scabbers is actually an animagus, that's evidence. We can take him to Dumbledore. But the vision showed him escaping, Ron says. I saw him get away. Then we change it, Harry says firmly. We know it's coming. We prepare. We make sure he doesn't escape. Your sight gives us an advantage. We can see what's supposed to happen and plan around it. Ron wants to believe that, wants to think that seeing the future means being able to change it. But Trelawney's warnings echo in his mind. What if trying to catch Pettigrew is what causes his escape? What if the vision accounts for their foreknowledge? What if fighting destiny only makes it stronger? They spend the next weeks watching Scabbers carefully. Ron's skin crawls every time he looks at the rat, knowing what it really is. He wants to kill it, to just eliminate Pettigrew before he can betray anyone else. But that would make Ron a murderer, and might prevent Sirius's exoneration if Pettigrew's body is needed as proof. Meanwhile, Ron's sight continues developing. Small visions come sporadically, flashes of the near future, fragments of conversations that will happen, images of places he hasn't been yet. Nothing as dramatic as the graveyard or Sirius visions, but enough to confirm that the sight is real and growing stronger. He learns to recognize the feeling that precedes a vision, a particular pressure behind his eyes, a tightening in his chest, a sense of the world becoming thin and transparent. When he feels that sensation, he has maybe 10 seconds to find somewhere safe before the vision hits and his consciousness departs his body. It's disorienting and sometimes embarrassing. He has a vision in the middle of potions class and comes back to consciousness, lying on the floor with Snape looming over him, looking disgusted. He has another during dinner and drops his fork into his plate with a clatter that draws everyone's attention. His classmates start whispering about him being weird, possibly ill, definitely different. Hermione researches famous seers and their fates. The information isn't encouraging. Many went mad. Some disappeared into their own visions and never fully came back. Others were used by governments and dark wizards, forced to prophecy until their minds broke. A few found peace by accepting their gift and learning to live with it, but those were the rare exceptions. The sight is considered a tragic gift in most cultures, Hermione reports, reading from a library book about prophecy. Seers are respected but also pitied and feared, because they know things others don't. They're often isolated from normal relationships, and because they can't control when visions come, they're unreliable for normal responsibilities. Many seers end up alone, their gift consuming their entire life. That's cheerful, Ron says sarcastically. Anything else I should look forward to? Actually, yes. It says here that seers with strong emotional connections to others, family, friends, loved ones, tend to maintain sanity better than isolated seers. The connections ground them in the present, preventing them from losing themselves entirely to visions of possible futures. So as long as we stick together, Ron might stay sane? Harry asks. Theoretically, though the book also notes that seeing terrible futures for people you love is its own kind of torture. Ron thinks about the graveyard vision, about experiencing Harry's terror and pain and certainty of death, about carrying that knowledge, knowing what's coming but not when or how to prevent it. Yeah, I'm already learning that. The visions continue. Some are trivial. Ron sees Hermione getting top marks on an essay, sees Neville getting detention, sees the Gryffindor Quidditch team winning a match. Others are more significant but still manageable. He sees Hagrid getting into trouble with the Ministry about his hippogriff, sees himself and Harry and Hermione investigating something in the Shrieking Shack, sees snow and time turners and multiple versions of the same moment. Each vision adds to the accumulated weight of knowledge. Ron starts keeping a journal, writing down everything he sees so he can compare it to reality as events unfold. Some visions are perfectly accurate. Others are symbolic or metaphorical, requiring interpretation. A few never happen at all, suggesting they were possibilities that didn't manifest. The journal becomes his lifeline, a way to organize the chaos to make sense of fragments that don't obviously connect. Hermione helps him develop a system, date each vision, categorize by importance, note which ones come true and which don't. It's practical and grounding, and helps Ron feel like he's doing something with this gift, instead of just being overwhelmed by it. December arrives, bringing the final Quidditch match before the holidays. Ron has a vision 2 days before the match. Dementors attacking during the game, Harry falling from his broom, the firebolt destroyed. He warns Harry, who decides to play anyway but asks Hermione to have her wand ready in case of Dementor attack. When the vision comes true during the match, Ron is standing in the crowd feeling the horrible inevitability of it. He'd known it was coming, had warned Harry, but Harry played anyway because Gryffindor needed their seeker, and Ron had watched helplessly as his friend fell from the sky exactly as foreseen. This is the burden of the sight, knowing terrible things are coming and being powerless to stop them. Ron is learning that seeing the future doesn't mean controlling it. It just means suffering twice, once in the vision and again when it comes true. But he's also learning that the sight is a tool, that even fragmented visions provide valuable information, that knowing what's coming allows preparation that might save lives, even if it can't prevent the events entirely. When Hermione uses her wand to slow Harry's fall after the Dementor's attack, she's able to save him from serious injury because Ron's warning made her ready. The firebolt is still destroyed, but Harry survives with only minor injuries instead of dying or being permanently disabled. It's not a victory exactly, but it's harm reduction. And Ron is learning that sometimes that's the best a seer can hope for. The term ends with Ron heading home for Christmas, his journal full of visions, his mind full of terrible knowledge, and his growing understanding that the sight is both gift and curse in equal measure. The Shrieking Shack and Proving Prophecy, Spring 1994. The spring term brings escalating tension around Sirius Black and Peter Pettigrew. Ron has had several more visions refining his understanding of what's coming. He sees the sequence of events clearly now. Pettigrew will be exposed in the Shrieking Shack, will confess his crimes, will transform back to rat form and escape during the chaos with the Dementors. Sirius will be captured and scheduled for the Dementor's kiss. Then Harry and Hermione will use the time turner to save him. Ron explains all this to Harry and Hermione. The vision shows us failing to keep Pettigrew captive, but it also shows Sirius being saved. We need to focus on that second part. But if we know Pettigrew escapes, we can prepare, Hermione insists. We can bring unbreakable bindings or petrify him, or The vision accounts for us trying, Ron says tiredly. This is the paradox he's learned through months of training with Trelawney. I don't see us not trying to hold him. I see us trying and failing, which suggests that our efforts are already part of the vision. We can't outthink destiny by doing something the vision doesn't show, because the vision is already showing us doing everything we'll try. That's circular logic, Hermione protests. That's prophecy, Ron counters. I know it doesn't make logical sense, but I've learned to recognize the difference between visions that can be changed and visions that are fixed. This one feels fixed. Pettigrew escapes. Sirius gets captured. Those events are set. What might be flexible is what happens after. Harry looks frustrated. So we just let it happen? We don't even try to catch Pettigrew? We try. We have to try. It's part of the vision, but we accept that we'll fail at that part and prepare for the rescue instead. And it's a hard pill to swallow. Going into a situation knowing they'll fail feels like giving up before they start. But Ron has learned through painful experience that fighting fixed prophecy only wastes energy. Better to accept the inevitable and work around it. The confrontation in the Shrieking Shack plays out almost exactly as Ron's visions predicted. They follow the dog that's actually Sirius. They discover Lupin is a werewolf and also an old friend of Sirius. They learn the truth about Pettigrew's betrayal. Ron watches it all with the surreal feeling of experiencing something he's already seen, like rewatching a memory. The one major difference is that Ron is prepared. When Pettigrew transforms to rat form and scrambles for freedom, Ron is already casting a binding spell. It doesn't work. Pettigrew squirms free just as the vision showed. But Ron expected that. What matters is what comes next. Time Turner, Ron tells Hermione, as they're walking back to the castle with Sirius and Pettigrew. You're going to use it to save Sirius after he's captured. I've seen it. How do you know I have a Time Turner? Hermione demands, startled. I'm a seer. I see things. And I see you and Harry going back in time to save Sirius and Buckbeak after the Dementors take him. So when that happens, don't panic. It's supposed to happen that way. The Dementor attack unfolds exactly as foreseen. Pettigrew escapes during the chaos. Sirius is captured. Harry and Hermione use the Time Turner to go back and rescue him and the Hippogriff. Ron doesn't participate in the time travel because he wasn't in the original vision. Adding him might change things unpredictably. Instead, he waits in the hospital wing, using the time to have another vision about the upcoming summer and the Quidditch World Cup. This vision is fragmented and confusing. He sees the dark mark in the sky. Death Eaters attacking. Fear and chaos. Something about a house elf and a wand. It's not clear enough to be useful yet, but it's coming. More danger. More things he'll see but possibly not be able to prevent. When Harry and Hermione return successfully with Sirius saved, Ron shares what he saw about the World Cup. Something bad happens there. Death Eaters. The Dark Mark. I don't know details yet, but we should be careful. You could see more clearly if you tried harder, Hermione suggests. Focused your gift. That's not how it works, Ron says, frustrated. I don't control what I see or when I see it. The visions come when they come. I can use tools like the crystal ball to invite them, but I can't force specifics. It must be difficult, Harry says sympathetically, knowing things but not knowing enough to fully prepare. It's maddening, Ron admits. I see fragments. Pieces. Sometimes they fit together into a clear picture, like with Sirius. Other times I just have bits that don't make sense until after they happen, and I never know which type of vision I'm getting until it's too late. The year ends with mixed results. Ron proved his sight's accuracy. The Sirius situation unfolded exactly as he'd foreseen. But Pettigrew still escaped, meaning the danger he poses remains, and Ron's reputation at school has become complicated. Some students are fascinated by his prophecies. Others think he's weird or lying. Some avoid him like he's contagious. He also realizes that being a seer is isolating in ways he hadn't anticipated. He knows things about the future that he can't always share. He carries the burden of visions alone because explaining them requires revealing knowledge that might change events unpredictably. He exists partially outside normal time, always seeing ahead, never fully present in the moment. But he has Harry and Hermione. They believe him, support him, help him make sense of the gift he never wanted but is learning to use. As long as they're together, Ron thinks he might survive this with his sanity intact. Third year ends with Ron understanding more about his sight but also recognizing how much he still doesn't know. The gift is developing, strengthening, becoming more frequent and accurate, which means fourth year is going to be even harder. Because he's already had fragmentary visions of what's coming, tournaments and danger and that terrible graveyard scene that started everything. The future is coming whether Ron is ready or not, and all the sight does is let him see it approaching without being able to stop it. Fourth year, the tournament and terrible knowledge summer 1994 brings the Quidditch World Cup and Ron's most public vision yet. The Weasley family attends the match with Harry and Hermione. The game is spectacular. The celebration afterward is joyous. And then, exactly as Ron's fragmented visions suggested, chaos erupts. Death Eaters attack the campground, terrorizing Muggles, reveling in destruction. Ron feels the vision's pressure behind his eyes as the attack begins. He tries to fight it. This is the worst possible moment for his consciousness to depart his body, but the sight doesn't care about convenience. The vision hits him in the middle of running from Death Eaters. He collapses, separated from Harry and Hermione, his body vulnerable, while his mind is elsewhere. The vision shows him the dark mark being cast into the sky, shows him a house elf named Winky found with Harry's wand, shows confusion and accusations and Party Crouch's particular rage. When he comes back to himself, Fred and George have found him and are protecting his unconscious body from the chaos. "Mate, you picked a hell of a time for a vision," Fred says, helping him stand. "Couldn't help it," Ron gasps. They come when they come. The aftermath proves his vision accurate. The dark mark appears. Winky is found with Harry's wand. Crouch is furious. The Ministry is in uproar. And Ron knows something nobody else does. This is all connected to what's coming at Hogwarts, to the tournament, to Voldemort's plan for return. His graveyard visions have become more frequent and detailed over the summer. He knows now that the Triwizard Tournament will be held at Hogwarts this year, that Harry will somehow be entered as a fourth champion, that the tournament is a trap designed to deliver Harry to Voldemort, that the graveyard confrontation is the endgame. Trelawney has been preparing him for this. "You're going to be tested this year," she told him before summer began. "Your sight is showing you terrible things about Mr. Potter's future. You must decide how much to tell him and when. Too much knowledge can be paralyzing. Too little can be fatal. Finding the balance is the hardest part of being a seer." When the Triwizard Tournament is announced at the start of Term Feast, Ron feels sick. It's beginning. Everything he's seen is starting to unfold. Harry will be chosen despite being underage. Will face deadly tasks, will be transported to the graveyard where Voldemort waits, and Ron will watch it happen, knowing it's coming but unable to stop it. Harry's name comes out of the Goblet of Fire. The school erupts in controversy. Many students think Harry entered himself. The Hufflepuffs turn against him. Even Ron feels a flash of jealousy and hurt. Why didn't Harry tell him if he was going to enter? But that jealousy only lasts a moment before guilt crushes it. Ron has seen what's coming for Harry, has experienced the graveyard terror in empathic detail. He knows his friend didn't enter willingly, knows Harry is walking toward death. The canonical argument between Harry and Ron over the tournament doesn't happen in this timeline. Ron can't be angry at Harry for seeking glory when he knows Harry is actually being set up for murder. Instead, Ron becomes quietly, intensely protective. "You have to be careful in this tournament," Ron tells Harry privately. "I've seen bad things. Really bad things. The graveyard. Yeah. And I think the tournament is how you get there. I don't know all the details yet. The vision is still fragmentary. But Harry, this is a trap. Someone entered you to get you killed. Then I'll forfeit. The goblet is a binding magical contract. You have to compete, but knowing it's a trap gives us an advantage. We can prepare. We can watch for the person who's manipulating events." They tell Hermione, who immediately begins researching tournament history and looking for loopholes in the magical contract. She can't find any way for Harry to withdraw, but she does find information about past champions who survived by being overly cautious and prepared. Ron has visions about each task before they happen, giving Harry advance warning. He sees the dragons for the first task, sees the lake and hostages for the second task, sees the maze and dangers for the third task. Each vision helps Harry prepare, turning what should be deadly challenges into manageable ones. But Ron also sees what comes after the third task, the Portkey Cup. The graveyard, Voldemort's return. and he knows that warning Harry about the other tasks is easy compared to figuring out how to prevent or survive the graveyard. Trelawney works with him intensively throughout the year, teaching him advanced sight techniques, how to deliberately induce visions about specific people or events, how to see deeper into the timeline, beyond immediate futures into long-term possibilities, how to distinguish between fixed prophecy and fluid potential. The graveyard vision is fixed, Ron tells her after another session. I've seen it dozens of times now, from different angles at different moments. It's going to happen. Harry's going to be taken there. Voldemort is going to return. Then the question becomes, how does Harry survive it? Trelawney asks pragmatically. If you can't prevent the event, you must prepare for survival. Ron focuses his sight on that question. What happens after Voldemort returns? The visions come in fragments. Harry dueling Voldemort, golden light connecting their wands, priori incantatum creating echoes of Voldemort's victims. Harry escaping with Cedric's body. Wait, Cedric's body. That's new information. Ron focuses harder, trying to see more clearly. Cedric dies, killed by Pettigrew on Voldemort's orders. The first victim of Voldemort's new reign. The knowledge crushes Ron. Another death he'll fail to prevent. Another person who'll die while Ron watches helplessly from his visions, unable to change fate. He tells Harry. Cedric dies in the graveyard. Killed immediately when you arrive. I'm sorry. Harry goes pale. Can we warn him? Tell him not to take the cup? He has to touch it with you. That's how the portkey works. If he doesn't, you might end up there alone, and that could be even worse. So he just dies? We let him die? I don't know how to save him, Ron admits miserably. I've tried to see alternatives, ways to change it, but every vision ends the same. Cedric dies. The year progresses with Ron carrying this terrible knowledge. He watches Cedric in the corridors, laughing with his friends, being kind and good and decent. He watches knowing that in a few months Cedric will be dead, and Ron knows it's coming but can't prevent it. The psychological burden is crushing. Ron starts having nightmares where he experiences Cedric's death from Cedric's perspective, sees the green light approaching, feels the life extinguished, wakes up gasping and terrified, unable to shake the knowledge that it's coming true. Hermione finds him one night in the common room, unable to sleep, staring at nothing. You're carrying too much, she says gently. You need to tell someone else. Share the burden. Who? Dumbledore? He already knows Voldemort is planning a return. He's probably working on plans I don't see. Cedric? What do I say? Sorry, but you're going to die and there's nothing anyone can do about it. You could try to change the vision. I've tried. I can't. It's fixed. Cedric dies, Voldemort returns. Harry escapes. Those are the three certainties. The third task arrives. Ron has had so many visions of it that he knows the sequence by heart. Harry and Cedric enter the maze. They face obstacles. They reach the cup together. They touch it simultaneously. They're transported to the graveyard. Ron isn't there to witness it personally, but he sees it anyway. Another vision strikes him during the task, showing him the graveyard events in real time as they unfold. He experiences Harry's terror and pain, experiences Cedric's brief moment of confusion before death, experiences Voldemort's resurrection and the sick triumph of Death Eaters. When Harry returns with Cedric's body, screaming that Voldemort is back, Ron already knows. He's been there, in vision, the whole time. The aftermath is chaos. The Ministry denies Voldemort's return. Fudge refuses to believe Harry. The Daily Prophet begins a smear campaign, but Ron can confirm Harry's account because he saw it independently. Dumbledore believes them both. Two witnesses to Voldemort's return, Dumbledore says quietly. One who was there physically, one who saw it through the sight. That gives your testimony weight, even if the Ministry refuses to acknowledge it. But it also makes Ron a target. If Voldemort learns that Harry has a seer at his side, someone who can see the Dark Lord's plans before they unfold, Ron becomes a priority threat to eliminate. Fourth year ends with the wizarding world on the brink of war, with Ron's sight stronger and more accurate than ever, and with the terrible knowledge that everything is about to get much worse. Because he's already having visions of fifth year, of the Department of Mysteries, of prophecies and death and loss that will break them in new ways. The sight shows the future clearly, and the future looks dark. Fifth year, prophecy, and the Department of Mysteries. Fifth year begins with the Ministry actively working against them. Dolores Umbridge arrives as defense against the Dark Arts teacher and High Inquisitor. Her purpose clear: discredit Harry and suppress any suggestion that Voldemort has returned. Ron, as the Seer who corroborated Harry's story, becomes a secondary target. Umbridge is particularly hostile to divination as a discipline, viewing it as imprecise nonsense that has no place in proper magical education. She attends Trelawney's classes regularly, making notes asking pointed questions designed to expose the subject as fraudulent. When she learns that Ron is studying privately with Trelawney, developing what they claim is genuine sight, her contempt becomes active antagonism. Mr. Weasley claims to have prophetic ability, Umbridge says during one of her inspection visits, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Perhaps he could demonstrate for the class? Give us a prediction that we can verify? Ron knows this is a trap. Performing sight on demand is nearly impossible. Visions come when they come, not when summoned for entertainment. But refusing will make Umbridge label him a fraud, potentially getting Trelawney fired and ending his training. He tries anyway, gazes into the crystal ball while Umbridge and the entire class watch, tries to quiet his mind and open the inner eye despite the pressure and hostility in the room. For several long, uncomfortable minutes, nothing happens. Umbridge's smile grows wider. Then the vision hits. Ron sees the Department of Mysteries, sees rows of prophecy orbs, sees Harry fighting Death Eaters, sees someone dying, a figure falling through a strange veil that radiates death. The vision is fragmented, incomplete, but it's real sight, not performance. He comes back to himself trembling. I see the Department of Mysteries. I see prophecy orbs. I see battle and death. I see Harry in terrible danger before the end of the year. Umbridge laughs, a girlish giggle that's deeply unpleasant. How conveniently vague. Danger and death. Such generic predictions could apply to anything. And of course Mr. Potter is involved, because Mr. Weasley's supposed visions always conveniently center on his famous friend. The class is divided. Some students believe Ron is genuine. He's been accurate before, and there's something in his delivery that feels different from the made-up predictions others give. But others side with Umbridge, laughing at the vague prophecy, dismissing it as attention-seeking. Ron doesn't care what they think. He needs to understand the vision. Department of Mysteries, prophecy orbs, battle, death. These fragments will matter. He tells Harry and Hermione immediately after class. I saw you in the Department of Mysteries, fighting Death Eaters, and I saw someone dying, falling through some kind of archway. The Department of Mysteries is in the Ministry, Hermione says. Why would Harry be there? I don't know yet. But the vision felt important, connected to something bigger, like it's a crucial moment in whatever's coming. Over the following months, Ron has more visions refining his understanding. He sees Harry having dreams about a corridor, sees a connection between Harry and Voldemort through the scar, sees Voldemort using that connection to plant a vision of Sirius being tortured, sees it's a trap to lure Harry to the Department of Mysteries. The problem is timing. Ron doesn't know when this will happen. Could be December. The vision exists outside normal time, showing him what will occur but not when. He tells Dumbledore about the visions during one of their occasional meetings. Dumbledore has been taking Ron's sight seriously since it accurately predicted Voldemort's return, meeting with him monthly to discuss prophetic insight. The Department of Mysteries contains the Hall of Prophecy, Dumbledore explains. Thousands of prophecies stored in orbs accessible only to those the prophecy concerns. There is a prophecy about Harry and Voldemort stored there. Voldemort knows it exists, but cannot retrieve it himself. Only Harry or Voldemort can touch it. So Voldemort will try to trick Harry into getting it for him, Ron reasons. That's what the vision shows. He'll use Harry's connection to plant a false vision of Sirius in danger, knowing Harry will rush to save him. Very likely. Your sight is giving us crucial advance warning. We can prepare. Have order members guarding the department. Be ready when Voldemort springs his trap. But Ron's visions show the order members losing, show Death Eaters overwhelming them. Show that figure falling through the veil. He tries to see who it is. The vision is too fragmented, the face unclear. But his empathic sight picks up the emotional signature of the dying person. Grief, love for Harry, reckless bravery. Someone close to Harry who dies protecting him. The realization hits Ron like ice water. Sirius. The person who dies is Sirius. The vision Voldemort plants about Sirius being in danger, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sirius comes to help Harry and dies in the Department of Mysteries. Dumbledore's expression becomes very grave. You're certain? Not completely, but the emotional resonance matches. And it would make terrible sense. Voldemort uses Sirius as bait, then kills him during the battle. Harry loses his godfather trying to save him from a danger that wasn't real. Drink up, Dad. Then we must prepare very carefully, perhaps prevent Harry from going at all. But Ron's vision suggests that won't work. He sees Harry going to the Department of Mysteries, despite warnings, despite preparations. Sees the inevitability of it. This is fixed prophecy, like Cedric's death. The events will unfold as foreseen. The school year continues, with Ron trying to prepare for something he knows is coming but can't prevent. The DA forms, giving students practical defense training. Ron participates actively, his visions occasionally showing him which spells will be most useful in the coming battle. He also continues his training with Trelawney, who's under increasing pressure from Umbridge. The High Inquisitor wants to fire Trelawney, dismiss divination as a subject, and eliminate anything that suggests there might be truth to prophecy. She sees Ron's Zeit as particularly threatening because it lends credibility to the discipline she's trying to discredit. She fears what she doesn't understand, Trelawney tells Ron during a private lesson. Prophecy threatens those who believe reality can be controlled through rules and regulations. The Zeit shows that some things are beyond anyone's control, even the Ministry's. That terrifies people like Dolores Umbridge. The vision of the Department of Mysteries becomes clearer as the year progresses. Ron sees the layout of the Hall of Prophecy, sees which Death Eaters will be there. Bellatrix Lestrange, Lucius Malfoy, Antonin Dolohov, others. Sees the battle strategy they'll use, sees the prophecy orb shattering, and only one person hearing its contents clearly. He also sees what the prophecy says, not through the orb itself, but through his own sight, which sometimes picks up echoes of other prophecies when they're relevant. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice defied him. Born as the 7th month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal. But he will have power the Dark Lord knows not, and either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. Ron tells Harry and Hermione, "It's about you. The prophecy Voldemort wants. It says you're the only one who can defeat him, but it also says either you or Voldemort has to die. There's no other ending where you both survive." Harry absorbs this information with disturbing calm. "So I either kill him or he kills me. That's my destiny." Prophecy isn't absolute, Ron says, though he's not sure he believes it anymore. The future can change. The vision shows possibilities, not certainties. But some things are fixed, Harry counters. You've said that before. Some prophecies can't be changed. This one feels different, like it's showing the framework but not the details. The outcome is set. One of you dies, but how it happens might be flexible. The DA continues meeting and training. Ron has fragmentary visions of the Department of Mysteries battle, seeing flashes of who'll be there and what they'll face. He tries to prepare everyone without explaining how he knows what's coming. When the night finally arrives, when Harry has the vision of Sirius being tortured, Ron knows immediately it's a trap. He's been waiting for this moment for months. "It's not real," Ron tells Harry desperately. "It's Voldemort planting the vision. Sirius isn't actually in danger." This is how he gets you to the Department of Mysteries. "How do you know?" "I've seen it, this exact moment. You having the vision, rushing to save Sirius? It's all part of Voldemort's plan. But what if you're wrong? What if Sirius really is in danger and I do nothing?" This is the impossible position the site creates. Ron knows it's a trap, but he can't be absolutely certain. What if this one time the vision is wrong? What if Sirius really is being tortured? Can they risk inaction based on prophecy that might be fallible? Harry decides to go anyway. If there's even a chance Sirius is in danger, I have to try to save him. Ron goes with him, along with Hermione, Neville, Ginny, and Luna. The battle in the Department of Mysteries unfolds largely as Ron's visions predicted. Death Eaters ambush them. They fight through the Hall of Prophecy. The prophecy orb shatters, Order members arrive to help, and Sirius appears, fighting to protect Harry. Ron tries to stay close to him to prevent what he knows is coming. But the battle is chaos, and Ron is fighting his own desperate combat against Death Eaters. He can't be everywhere at once. The moment arrives. Bellatrix's curse hits Sirius. He falls backward through the veil. Harry's scream of anguish echoes through the chamber. And Ron experiences both Harry's grief and the terrible confirmation that his vision was accurate. Sirius is dead. Prophecy fulfilled. The aftermath is devastating. Harry is broken by Sirius's death. The Ministry finally admits Voldemort has returned. Dumbledore returns to Hogwarts. Umbridge is removed. But none of that matters compared to the loss of Sirius. Ron carries crushing guilt. He'd known it was coming. Had seen it months in advance. Had tried to prevent Harry from going to the Department of Mysteries at all, but Harry had gone anyway. And Sirius had died anyway. And prophecy had proven stronger than Ron's attempts to change it. I should have stopped you, Ron tells Harry later. Should have stunned you or told Dumbledore or done something to prevent you from going. Then Sirius might have died alone instead of trying to protect me, Harry says hollowly. Or maybe he'd have died a different way. You can't know if changing one thing would have saved him or just moved his death to a different moment. That's the problem with the sight, Ron says bitterly. I see terrible things coming and I can't stop them. What's the point of knowing the future if you're helpless to change it? Fifth year ends with Ron questioning everything he's learned about his gift. The sight shows the future. But showing isn't the same as preventing. Knowledge without power to change is just torture. And Ron is beginning to understand why so many seers go mad, because carrying the weight of foreknowledge is crushing when you're powerless to alter what's coming. Summer arrives. The Order of the Phoenix mobilizes for war, and Ron's sight shows him fragments of what's ahead, battles and death and darkness. The future is coming. And all Ron can do is watch it approach, knowing he'll see every tragedy before it happens, but probably won't be able to prevent them. The sight is a gift, but increasingly it feels like a curse. Sixth year, seeing Dumbledore's death. Sixth year begins with Ron's sight stronger than ever, but his faith in its usefulness severely shaken. The previous year proved that seeing the future doesn't mean controlling it. Sirius died exactly as Ron had foreseen, despite months of warning and attempts at prevention. The lesson is clear. Some prophecies are fixed, and fighting them only causes additional suffering. But Dumbledore thinks differently. During their first meeting of the year, he asks Ron to focus his sight on specific questions. Can you see Voldemort's plans, his strategies? Where the Horcruxes might be hidden? Ron tries. Spends hours gazing into the crystal ball, attempting to penetrate the darkness surrounding Voldemort's mind. He gets fragments, glimpses of a cave by the sea, a ring destroyed, a locket, a cup. But the visions are cloudy and incomplete. Voldemort is too skilled at occlumency to be easily seen, his mind shielded against most forms of magical perception, including prophetic sight. I can't see him clearly, Ron reports. It's like he's surrounded by fog. I get pieces, but not enough to be useful. That is unfortunate, but not surprising, Dumbledore says. Voldemort would naturally protect himself against seers, but perhaps you can see events around him, his followers' actions, the consequences of his plans. Ron focuses on Death Eaters instead. These visions come more clearly. He sees attacks being planned, sees Death Eaters recruiting, sees the dark magic spreading through the wizarding world. He reports what he sees to Dumbledore and the Order, giving them intelligence about Death Eater movements that allows some attacks to be prevented or countered. It's the first time Ron's sight feels genuinely useful rather than just torture. He can't see everything, but what he does see helps people. Lives are saved because Ron warned the Order about an attack before it happened. Communities are protected because Ron's visions showed where Death Eaters would strike next. But then comes the vision he's been dreading since the year started. It strikes during a quiet evening in the common room. Ron is playing chess with Harry when the familiar pressure behind his eyes signals an incoming vision. He has just enough time to mutter, "Vision coming," before his consciousness departs, and the sight takes over. He sees the astronomy tower, sees Dumbledore, weak and injured, facing Draco Malfoy. Sees Death Eaters arriving, Bellatrix, Greyback, the Carrows. Sees Snape appearing. Sees Snape raising his wand and speaking the killing curse. Sees Dumbledore fall from the tower. Sees the Death Eaters escaping. Sees Harry watching helplessly from beneath an invisibility cloak. The vision releases him. Ron comes back to himself gasping, tears streaming down his face from the empathic connection to Harry's grief and horror. The entire common room is staring at him. These public visions have become more common as his sight strengthens, and students have learned to give him space when they happen. Harry is kneeling beside him. What did you see? Ron can barely speak. Dumbledore, the astronomy tower. Snape kills him this year. It happens this year. The words fall like stones into silence. Several students gasp. Hermione goes pale. Harry looks like he's been struck. Are you certain? Hermione asks. I saw it clearly. Dumbledore dies. Snape kills him, and Harry watches it happen. They retreat to the boys' dormitory for privacy. Ron describes every detail of the vision. The timeline isn't clear, but it's definitely this year, probably toward the end. Dumbledore will be injured from something else first, then Snape will kill him on the astronomy tower while Death Eaters watch. We have to warn him, Harry says immediately. Tell him about the vision. He can protect himself, can prepare. What if telling him causes it to happen? Ron counters. What if the vision accounts for him knowing? What if by preparing for the attack he puts himself in the position where it becomes inevitable? So we do nothing? We just let Dumbledore die because you saw it in a vision? I don't know what we should do. Ron's frustration boils over. That's the whole problem with the sight. It shows me terrible things but never shows me how to prevent them. I saw Cedric dying. Couldn't stop it. Saw Sirius dying. Couldn't stop that either. Now I see Dumbledore dying and you want me to know how to prevent it, but I don't. I just know it's coming. They argue about it for hours. Hermione researches famous prophecies and whether they can be changed. Harry wants immediate action, telling Dumbledore everything. Ron is paralyzed by the knowledge that his previous attempts to prevent foreseen deaths have failed. Eventually they decide to tell Dumbledore, but let him decide how to handle the information. It's a compromise that satisfies nobody, but seems like the only viable option. Dumbledore listens to Ron's vision with grave attention. Snape kills me. I see. And this happens on the astronomy tower? Yes, sir. You'll be injured already. Weak. Draco Malfoy will be there first, trying to kill you, but unable to follow through. Then Snape arrives and does it instead. Interesting. This suggests several things about the timeline and circumstances. Dumbledore is remarkably calm for someone who's just been told the manner and approximate timing of his death. Mr. Weasley, can you see why Draco is trying to kill me? What leads to that moment? Ron focuses his sight on the question. Gets fragmentary visions. Draco marked as a Death Eater, given an impossible task, spending the year in the room of requirement working on something. A cabinet. Vanishing cabinet. Connected to another cabinet somewhere else. A way to bring Death Eaters into Hogwarts. He explains what he sees. Dumbledore nods thoughtfully. So Draco is tasked with killing me, but cannot do it, and Snape completes the task instead. This actually confirms several theories I've been developing. Thank you for this information, Mr. Weasley. But sir, aren't you worried? The vision shows you dying. I am an old man who has lived a full life. Death does not frighten me. What concerns me more is ensuring that my death, if it is indeed inevitable, serves a useful purpose. If I must die, let it be in a manner that advances the cause of defeating Voldemort. Ron doesn't understand this attitude. Hermione looks shocked. Harry appears furious. But Dumbledore seems genuinely at peace with the prophecy of his death. Can I ask you to do something for me, Mr. Weasley? Can you see what happens after my death? Whether my death serves a purpose or is merely tragedy? Ron tries. Focuses on the timeline after Dumbledore's death. Gets vague impressions. Harry leaving Hogwarts, hunting for something important. A funeral. The school under Death Eater control. Darkness spreading, but also resistance. People fighting back. Harry continuing his mission. I see Harry continuing something you started, Ron reports. Some kind of mission or hunt. I see the school occupied but people resisting. I see hope. Despite the darkness, there's still hope. Then my death is not meaningless, Dumbledore says with satisfaction. That is what matters. The conversation ends with Dumbledore asking Ron to keep him informed of any visions that might clarify the timeline or circumstances, but he makes no effort to prevent the prophesied death. Instead, he continues his work, teaching Harry about Horcruxes, planning for the war, preparing the Order for his eventual absence. Ron is disturbed by this acceptance. He's just letting it happen. He could fight it, could try to prevent it, but he's accepting it like it's already done. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do with fixed prophecy. Hermione suggests quietly. Accept it and work around it rather than fighting it futilely. That feels like giving up, or it's wisdom. Recognizing what you can and can't control. The year progresses with Ron watching for signs of the approaching vision. He sees Draco's increasing desperation as the school year advances. Sees Katie Bell cursed by a necklace Draco accidentally released. Sees Ron himself nearly poisoned by mead intended for Dumbledore. Every vision confirms that events are moving toward the Astronomy Tower confrontation. Ron tries to prepare Harry for what's coming without overwhelming him. When it happens, you'll be powerless to stop it. The vision shows you frozen, unable to act. That's not your fault. It's part of the circumstances. How can I just watch Dumbledore die? I don't know. But the vision shows you do. And afterward you have to continue. That's what Dumbledore wants. For his death to matter by allowing you to finish what he started. The night finally arrives. Ron feels it coming, a certainty in his bones that tonight is the night. He finds Harry. It's tonight. The Astronomy Tower. It's happening tonight. How do you know? The same way I knew about Sirius and Cedric. I can feel it. The timeline converging. The prophecy becoming reality. Harry leaves with Dumbledore for the cave, retrieving a Horcrux. Ron waits in the common room with Hermione, his sight showing him fragments of what's happening at the tower. Death Eaters arriving through the vanishing cabinet. Draco confronting Dumbledore. Snape arriving. The vision strikes in full force, pulling Ron into the experience. He sees through Harry's perspective, paralyzed under the invisibility cloak, forced to watch. Sees Dumbledore plead with Snape. Severus, please, seize the killing curse. Sees Dumbledore fall. Ron comes out of the vision weeping. Hermione is holding him, asking what happened. He's dead, Ron manages to say. Dumbledore is dead. Just like I saw. The confirmation comes shortly after when Harry returns, broken and grief-stricken. The greatest wizard of the age is gone, killed by someone they'd trusted. And Ron had known it was coming for months, but been unable to prevent it. The funeral happens days later. Ron attends, carrying the weight of foreknowledge. He'd seen this. Had watched it unfold in vision before reality caught up. The guilt is crushing. Should he have done more? Should he have tried harder to prevent it? Would things be different if he'd made different choices? But deep down, Ron knows the answer. Fixed prophecy can't be changed. Dumbledore's death was inevitable from the moment Ron first saw it. Fighting it would have been futile. All he could do was prepare for the aftermath. Sixth year ends with the school in shock, the wizarding world in mourning, and Harry determined to finish Dumbledore's work hunting Horcruxes. Ron's sight has proven accurate again. But accuracy without power to change is just torture. And Ron is beginning to understand that sometimes the cruelest thing the sight can do is show you exactly how someone will die and make you watch it happen twice. Once in vision, once in reality. Summer arrives, war is fully upon them. And Ron's sight shows him fragments of what's coming in seventh year. Battles and death and desperate hunts. The future is dark. But somewhere in that darkness, Ron also sees victory. Possible. Not certain, but possible. If they can survive long enough to reach it. Seventh year, the Horcrux hunt and final visions. Seventh year doesn't happen at Hogwarts. Instead, Harry, Ron, and Hermione go into hiding, hunting Horcruxes, while Voldemort consolidates control over the magical world. Ron's sight becomes both invaluable tool and terrible burden during this time. The hunt begins with fragmentary visions showing Ron where some Horcruxes might be hidden. He sees a locket in a cave. Dumbledore already retrieved that one. Sees a cup in Gringotts buried deep in the Lestrange vault. Sees something at Hogwarts hidden in the Room of Requirement. The visions aren't complete enough to provide perfect roadmaps, but they give the trio direction when they're otherwise lost. The locket they do have, Slytherin's locket retrieved by Dumbledore and passed to Harry through Creature, affects Ron's sight in disturbing ways. When he wears it, his visions become darker, more painful. He sees worst-case futures instead of likely ones. Sees Harry and Hermione dying. Sees himself failing them. Sees Voldemort triumphant. The locket is corrupting your sight, Hermione realizes after Ron has a particularly terrible vision while wearing it, showing you false futures designed to create despair. How do I know which visions are real and which are the locket's influence? Ron asks desperately. Real visions have emotional truth even when they're terrible. The locket's visions feel hollow. designed to hurt rather than inform. Ron learns to distinguish between genuine sight and locket-induced despair, but the strain is enormous. Carrying a piece of Voldemort's soul, while also trying to use prophetic sight to locate other pieces, creates a feedback loop of darkness that threatens to overwhelm him. The breaking point comes after months of fruitless hunting. Ron has a vision while wearing the locket that shows him Harry and Hermione together, happy without him. The vision feels real, feels true. It feeds every insecurity Ron has about being the spare friend, the unnecessary third wheel. He leaves, takes the locket off and disapparates, abandoning Harry and Hermione in a moment of locket-induced despair that his sight should have shown him was false, but didn't because he was too close to it. The weeks alone are torture. Ron tries to find them again, but the protective enchantments Hermione cast prevent it. He has visions of them, in danger, in pain, struggling without him, sees Harry nearly die, sees Hermione being tortured, can't do anything about it because he doesn't know where they are. Finally, Dumbledore's Deluminator provides a way back. Ron follows it to where Harry is drowning in a frozen pond, Sword of Gryffindor around his neck pulling him down. Ron saves him, destroys the locket, and returns to the hunt. The reunion with Hermione is difficult. She's furious at him for leaving. Ron tries to explain about the visions, about how the locket corrupted his sight, about how he couldn't tell what was real anymore. It takes time to rebuild trust. The hunt continues. Ron's visions guide them to the cup in Gringotts. They break in, ride a dragon to escape, and destroy another Horcrux. His sight shows them that something important is hidden at Hogwarts, though he can't see exactly what. They return to Hogwarts during the battle. Ron's sight is overwhelmed by the chaos of combat and death. Too many possible futures colliding, too many timelines branching based on small choices in the moment. He can't see clearly because everything is flux, but he does have one clear vision. Harry must go to the Forbidden Forest, must surrender to Voldemort, must die to destroy the Horcrux inside himself. Ron sees this with terrible clarity and understands that Harry's death is necessary for victory. He also sees that Harry will return, that the sacrifice won't be permanent, that dying is how Harry survives. It's confusing and paradoxical, but Ron trusts his sight now, after years of learning to interpret its messages. He tries to tell Harry, but the moment is chaotic and Harry slips away before Ron can explain fully. Ron is left fighting in the battle, his sight fragmented by the chaos, desperately trying to see if his vision of Harry's return is accurate or if he's about to lose his best friend permanently. Harry does go to the forest, does surrender, does die. Ron feels the death through his empathic sight, a terrible emptiness, Harry's consciousness departing. For long minutes, Ron believes his vision was wrong. Harry is dead. Voldemort has won. Then, Voldemort's triumphant procession returns with Harry's body, and Ron sees something nobody else can. Harry is still there. His soul hasn't moved on. He's playing dead, waiting for the right moment. Ron knows better than to reveal this. Knows that Harry needs everyone to believe he's dead for the strategy to work. So he stands with the other defenders, watching Voldemort gloat, waiting for the moment his vision showed him. Neville steps forward, refuses to bow, pulls the Sword of Gryffindor from the burning sorting hat, and kills Nagini. The last Horcrux destroyed, Voldemort made mortal, and Harry reveals himself alive. The final battle begins. Ron fights alongside his friends, his sight giving him split-second warnings about incoming curses, allowing him to dodge and counter effectively. The sight that's been a burden for 4 years finally becomes a genuine advantage in combat, where seeing seconds into the future means survival. The battle ends with Voldemort dead, Harry alive. The war won. Ron's sight showed him fragments of this victory months ago, but experiencing it is different from seeing it. The relief is overwhelming. The aftermath brings questions. What happens now? What role does a seer play in peacetime? Ron's sight is stronger than ever, refined by years of use and training. But he's also exhausted. The burden of seeing has aged him in ways that have nothing to do with physical years. Trelawney finds him after the battle. She looks as exhausted as he feels. "You've developed your gift remarkably," she says. "You're one of the most powerful seers I've ever encountered. I don't feel powerful. I feel tired. That's because you've been carrying the weight of the future for 4 years, seeing terrible things and being unable to prevent many of them. That exhaustion is normal. All true seers feel it. Does it ever get easier? No, but you learn to live with it. You learn which visions to fight and which to accept. You learn to forgive yourself for the deaths you couldn't prevent. You learn that the sight is a gift even when it feels like a curse. Ron thinks about everything he's seen over the past 4 years. Cedric's death, Sirius's death, Dumbledore's death, dozens of others during the war. He'd watched them all die twice, once in vision, once in reality. The trauma of that dual experience will stay with him forever. But he also thinks about the lives saved, the attacks prevented, the intelligence provided to the Order. The moments where his visions gave crucial warnings that allowed people to survive who would have died otherwise. The balance sheet isn't entirely negative. What do I do now? Ron asks. Now that the war is over, whatever you choose, continue developing your sight. Train others, work for the ministry as a prophetic consultant, or step away from it entirely and try to live a normal life. The gift is yours to use or not use as you see fit. Ron doesn't have an answer yet. He's too tired to think about the future beyond being grateful he has one. The sight showed him many possible futures over the years, but the one that came true was better than many alternatives. They won. That's what matters. The epilogue comes 19 years later. Ron is at King's Cross with Rose and Hugo, his children, seeing them off to Hogwarts. His sight is still present but less intrusive than it was during the war. He's learned to control it better, to invite visions when needed but keep them at bay the rest of the time. He still has prophetic dreams occasionally, still sees fragments of future events. But he's made peace with the gift, accepted that seeing the future doesn't mean controlling it, and that's okay. Sometimes knowing what's coming is enough. Sometimes preparation is more valuable than prevention. Rose looks nervous about starting Hogwarts. What if I'm not brave enough for Gryffindor? What if I disappoint you? Ron could use his sight to see which house she'll be sorted into. Could tell her it doesn't matter, that she'll be fine regardless. But he doesn't. Some futures are better discovered through living than through prophetic knowledge. You'll be exactly where you're meant to be, he says instead. Trust that. The train departs. Ron watches it go, his sight showing him brief flashes of his children's futures, happy ones, full of friendship and learning and growth. Not everything he sees is terrible. Sometimes the future is bright. He turns to Hermione. Ready to go home? Ready? They disappear together, leaving the station behind. Ron's sight shows him fragments of the days ahead, routine and peaceful and blessedly ordinary. After years of seeing war and death and darkness, ordinary is exactly what he needs. The gift of sight is still there, will always be there. But Ron has learned to carry it without being crushed by it, has learned that being a seer doesn't mean being powerless, even when you can't change what you see. Sometimes bearing witness is its own form of power. Sometimes seeing is enough. And sometimes, after years of looking into the future, the best thing you can do is simply live in the present and let tomorrow come when it comes. Final thoughts, the burden and gift of sight. What if Ron Weasley trained as a seer? Everything changes. The class clown becomes the prophet. The insecure youngest brother becomes the one who knows what's coming. The character who struggled with feeling overshadowed gains the most isolating gift imaginable, the ability to see futures that others can't access, carrying knowledge that separates him from everyone around him. Ron's journey with the sight follows a realistic arc through the 7 years at Hogwarts. It begins with accidental manifestation, a joke prophecy that turns out to be real, opening his inner eye without his consent or preparation. It develops through training with Trelawney, who goes from theatrical fraud to genuine mentor when she recognizes true sight in a student. The early visions are fragmentary and confusing. Ron has to learn to distinguish between imagination and genuine prophecy, between possible futures and inevitable ones, between visions that can be changed and visions that are fixed regardless of foreknowledge. This learning process is painful because it comes through failure. He can't prevent Cedric's death despite knowing it's coming, can't save Sirius despite months of warning, can't stop Dumbledore from dying on the astronomy tower. Each failure teaches him something about the nature of prophecy. Some events are fixed points. They will happen regardless of attempts to prevent them because the prophecy itself is woven into the fabric of causality. Trying to change these fixed prophecies either fails or causes them to manifest in different but equally tragic ways. Other visions show possibilities that can be altered through choice and action. Learning to distinguish between these two types is the central challenge of developing the sight. The psychological burden is crushing. Ron experiences empathic visions, feeling the emotions of people in the futures he sees. He lives through Harry's terror in the graveyard multiple times before it happens in reality. He experiences Cedric's death from Cedric's perspective. He feels Sirius's final moments, Dumbledore's resignation to fate, the deaths of dozens during the war. This dual trauma, seeing death before it happens, then watching it unfold exactly as foreseen, would break most people. But Ron survives it because of his connections. Harry and Hermione ground him in the present, preventing him from losing himself entirely to visions of possible futures. His family provides emotional support even when they don't fully understand what he's going through. Trelawney gives him the technical training to manage his gift without being overwhelmed by it. These relationships are what prevent the sight from consuming him completely. The sight also changes Ron's role in the trio. He's no longer the comic relief or the loyal sidekick. He becomes the strategic thinker who sees several moves ahead, the early warning system for danger, the source of intelligence about Voldemort's plans. His chess-playing mind adapts naturally to thinking in terms of branching possibilities and probability trees. He learns to treat the future like a chess game, where he knows his opponent's probable moves but not with certainty. His relationship with Harry becomes more complicated. Harry is both Ron's best friend and the subject of his most terrible visions. Ron sees Harry's death, torture, suffering again and again across different timelines. He carries the burden of knowing Harry is destined to either kill Voldemort or die trying. There's no third option. This knowledge creates distance because Ron knows things about Harry's future that Harry doesn't know himself, and deciding when to share that information is excruciating. Hermione's response to Ron's sight is particularly interesting. She initially dismissed divination as woolly imprecision, rejecting it as unscientific and unreliable. Ron, developing genuine prophetic ability, forces her to revise her worldview. She approaches it logically, researching the history and theory of sight, helping Ron develop systems to organize and interpret his visions. She becomes his anchor to rationality when the mystical nature of prophecy threatens to overwhelm him. The relationship with Trelawney transforms from mockery to genuine mentorship. She recognizes immediately that Ron's graveyard vision is real sight, not performance. She drops her theatrical manner around him and teaches seriously, sharing techniques and warnings about the dangers of prophetic ability. Their relationship becomes one of the most important in Ron's development, because she's the only one who truly understands what he's experiencing. The impact on the war effort is significant. Ron's visions provide intelligence that the Order otherwise couldn't access. He warns them about Death Eater attacks before they happen, giving them time to prepare or prevent. He sees where some Horcruxes are hidden, shortening the hunt. He provides strategic insight about Voldemort's plans. The Order starts treating him as a valuable asset, which creates its own problems. Ron becomes a priority target for Death Eaters, who want to eliminate the Seer, helping their enemies. But the visions aren't always useful. Sometimes they're too vague to act on. Sometimes they show multiple possible futures without clarity about which will manifest. Sometimes they come too late to matter. And sometimes, as with Cedric and Sirius and Dumbledore, they show deaths that can't be prevented no matter how much forewarning exists. This teaches Ron the central paradox of prophecy. Knowledge isn't the same as power. Seeing the future doesn't mean controlling it. Sometimes the best a seer can do is prepare people for what's coming, rather than preventing it entirely. Sometimes bearing witness and providing warning is enough, even when you can't change the outcome. The moral questions are profound. If Ron sees someone dying, does he have an obligation to warn them, even if the warning might cause the death? If he knows a prophecy is fixed, should he tell people anyway or spare them the psychological burden of knowing their fate? When visions show multiple possible futures, how does he decide which to trust? These questions have no easy answers, and Ron spends 7 years wrestling with them. The ending isn't neat. Ron doesn't master the sight completely or resolve all the ethical dilemmas it creates. He's exhausted by years of carrying the weight of the future. He's traumatized by the deaths he saw twice, once in vision, once in reality. He's aged in ways that have nothing to do with physical years, because seeing ages the soul. But he's also learned to live with the gift. He's made peace with not being able to prevent everything he foresees. He's accepted that the sight is both burden and blessing. It's terrible to see death coming, but it's also powerful to have advance warning that saves other lives. He's learned to control his visions better, to invite them when needed but keep them at bay the rest of the time. Most importantly, he's learned that being a seer doesn't mean being isolated if you have people who love you enough to help carry the burden. Harry and Hermione never fully understand what it's like to live with prophetic knowledge, but they believe Ron and support him anyway. That support is what prevents the site from consuming him the way it has consumed so many seers before. The question of whether prophecy can be changed remains ambiguous. Ron successfully prevents some deaths by warning people about dangers he saw, but he also fails to prevent others despite knowing they're coming. The evidence suggests that some prophecies are fixed while others are fluid, and distinguishing between the two requires experience and instinct more than logic. This ambiguity is intentional. If prophecy were always changeable, it would just be a useful warning system with no philosophical weight. If prophecy were always fixed, there'd be no point in seeing it because you'd be powerless to act. The reality is somewhere in between. Some futures can be changed, some can't, and figuring out which is which requires wisdom that only comes through painful experience. Ron's character development is profound. He goes from the insecure boy worried about being overshadowed to someone who carries knowledge that isolates him from everyone around him. He develops confidence born from necessity. You can't be passive when you see death coming. He learns to trust his instincts because prophetic sight operates more through intuition than logic. He becomes strategically minded in ways that surprise people who remember him as the class clown. But he also carries scars. The trauma of dual experiencing deaths, once in vision, once in reality, leaves permanent psychological marks. The guilt of failing to prevent foreseen tragedies weighs on him. The isolation of knowing things others don't creates a barrier in relationships that never fully goes away. The sight gives him power, but takes away innocence and peace. In the end, Ron Weasley as a seer represents something important: the burden of knowledge, the weight of responsibility, and the question of how much knowing the future is worth when you can't always change it. His journey is about learning to live with a gift that feels more like a curse, finding meaning in bearing witness even when you can't prevent what you see, and maintaining humanity in the face of knowledge that would break most people. The site chose Ron not because he wanted it or was prepared for it, but because he had the fundamental qualities necessary to survive it: emotional connection strong enough to ground him, strategic thinking to make sense of fragmentary visions, and enough stubborn loyalty to keep fighting even when prophecy showed him how hard the fight would be. What if Ron Weasley trained as a seer? He becomes the prophet who sees the future but can't always change it, the friend who carries terrible knowledge about the people he loves, the boy who grew up too fast because seeing death ages you in ways time alone never could, the seer who survives the gift without being destroyed by it but carries its weight forever. And in the end, that survival, that ability to carry prophetic knowledge without being crushed by it, might be the most powerful prophecy of all. Because it shows that even the most burdensome gifts can be born if you have people who help you carry them. And sometimes, that's the future worth fighting for.